Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you've had a great summer. I've been super busy with family things, most of all getting my daughters off to college, but I'm back and I have some great projects planned for you. And today, to get back into the swing of things, what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer some questions that have been piling up on my videos. I do save them all so that I can answer them when I have time. And in the background, you're going to see I'm finishing up some Kintsugi pendants. And if you don't know what that is, Kintsugi, which means golden joinery, is an ancient Japanese art of repairing broken pottery by mending the areas of breakage with gold. So the philosophy of Kintsugi says that the pottery's breakage and repair are seen as part of the history of the object, and they actually lend beauty to the object rather than the cracks being something to disguise. So anyway, this is going to be a project in my upcoming next book, which I will be releasing the title a little bit more down the road. So the first question is on my DIY molten stamped low temp solder jewelry tutorial video. And they ask, can you do decorative soldering on a 925 ring? I've seen designs that I just can't work out if it's soft wax shapes on hard wax or soft soldering. Secondly, can you get the same effect by directly melting silver wire? And my answer to that is that, low temp and high temp solders are two very different beasts. You can do solder on sterling with soft solder, but not vice versa. And the joiner repair would not be stable. And the soft solder would contaminate the sterling. So, you can't call something sterling silver unless it's 0.925. So, yeah, I would definitely keep them separate. The next question is from my video, Big Easy Heart Pendant, Soft Solder Jewelry Making with a Soldering Iron, Part 1 of 2. And Slayer24851 asks, hello, great video. I was wondering what temperature your iron is set at when you're making the solder balls. I can never get them right. I usually turn my iron down a bit. You really have to play around with your individual iron. Everyone's is different, and you need to find out what temp works best for you. And I said to them, there is no one-size-fits-all temperature that works for everyone. There's a lot of different things that come into play, such as the temperature of the room you're working in. The type of soldering iron, they're all different. So yeah, you really have to just play around with it. Next question comes from my video, Soft Soldered Sculpted Pendant Solder Alchemy, from Crazy7899 asks, I'm curious, would the solder ever tarnish? And the answer to that is yes, it will tarnish over time, and that's due to being exposed to air, to oxygen, just as sterling silver will tarnish, copper will tarnish over time. You want to keep it in like a little, if you have a plastic bag, like a little plastic baggie, keep it away from oxygen when you're not wearing it. Keep it away from the air, and that'll help reduce it, but you will need to polish it now and again. Next on my video, DIY molten stamped low temp solder jewelry tutorial, Nancy asks, hi Laura Beth, do you ever use copper solder? Now I only use lead-free silver alloy solder, but you can apply a copper-colored patina to that silver solder and get a copper finish. I do that in one or two of my videos. I believe one of them is where I make a bezel with copper, and I'll put the link below for that. You can check it out. Next question is from my video, how to cut a porcelain plate for jewelry or mosaics. And Kathy Bird asks, have you ever cut a glass plate into pieces? Not china, but glass, like pressed glass or cut glass. And my answer to that is I would usually use a glass saw. For anything that is thick, you do not want to use a manual glass cutter on a glass plate unless it's thin, because you're going to take your breaking pliers to it and it's just not going to work. You're not going to be able to break it unless it's thin. So use a manual hand cutter for thin glass plates, and for thick glass plates you're going to want to use a glass saw or ring saw. Next question comes from my DIY soft soldered ankh pendant from Sword, Fern, and Stone asks, beautiful pendant, Laura. Your videos have helped me so much. Thank you. Do you have any tips for preventing tarnish or discoloration over time? I've used a finish on my pieces, but it doesn't seem to be working well. Thanks so much. Like I said before, if you keep your pieces in like little plastic bags when you're not wearing them, that'll help prevent tarnish, but it will tarnish over time. So find a polish that works for you. Once in a while you're going to have to polish. You can put a coating like an enamel coating, almost like a clear nail polish kind of thing over it, but I've never done that. I don't know, maybe this is what you're talking about that doesn't work for you. I would say just keep it, the raw metal and then polish it on occasion. Next on my video, soft soldering Q&A, answering your comments and questions. The question is, what brand do you use for patina? I use Novacam patina. I have a link that I'm going to put down below, and it is a link to my Amazon page where I have a list of every single supply material that I use, or at least like what I can think of. If there's anything I miss, you can, ask me. But yeah, that's what I use. Next question is on my video, soft soldered sculpted pendant, soldered alchemy. Raven Lee asks, thank you for sharing. After the piece is complete, how do you smooth any rough edges out and clean it? Now, the secret to that is to make sure that your soldering is really smooth. If you have a pointy end of wire before you solder it, you want to file it down a little bit. Like if you're using copper wire and you're going to put silver solder on that copper wire and you're using like a heavy gauge wire, you want to smooth those edges first with a file and then solder it. And, some of the solder also can cover up those pointy ends. So make sure that your solder is nice and smooth. Now you can use some sandpaper, like I like those acrylic nail files sometimes, but you're going to lose that shiny smooth finish. So yeah, definitely do it with solder. Cover up all those pointy sharp ends with solder. Next question from my video, easy soft soldered cabochon pendant, soldered jewelry making. Joni and Dan Bowen ask, does the edge of the foil have burrs or a roughness? If so, do you recommend filing or sanding? Now, this is the video where I use that green oval cabochon and we put like a copper kind of a cap on top of it, and then I do the molten solder stamping with a rubber stamp on there. So if you have pointy ends after you're done stamping with a rubber stamp, if it's sharp, I would melt it and stamp it again and get it until it's smooth. You can use an acrylic nail file and get some of those, if you have any like little burrs on there, you can use that. But be very careful that you don't scratch your stone. Next question is on my video, soft soldered mushroom pendants. And Esliet asks, do you recommend any particular model of soldering iron, one that you are able to do delicate designs with? And my answer to that is, I really don't. You have to just find one that works for you. I did a review a while back on an inexpensive one that was under $20 that I got on Amazon, and it worked great. And I will, that is listed on my Amazon page if you want to link to that and find out where it is. But there's no particular model that I really can recommend. There are lots of stained glass supply stores where you can find suitable soldering irons. I would not buy a soldering iron from like a big box craft store. A lot of those are really low wattage. If you need more information on how to buy a soldering iron and all that entails, and there's a lot to it if you really want to get into it, I discuss that in depth in my latest book, Soldering Iron Jewelry, and I will put a link below to that as well. Okay, on my video, Easy Stamped Soldered Pendants tutorial, Spencer Girl Comedy asks, I've started my journey making jewelry and have used your videos to learn so much. I have a question. Does the solder jewelry smell bad for a time? I use lead-free solder, but I've noticed a strong bad smell on my jewelry until a couple weeks pass and the smell is gone. Is this normal? I can't find the answer anywhere. Wow, I really have no idea. I have never experienced anything like that. I don't know what items you're soldering, so if you gave us a little more info, are you soldering an organic material? Is it maybe the flux, although that should be completely washed off? So I really can't tell you what that is. It's a mystery. So give us more information if you can. And I'm out of video, so that wraps up the questions for today. I'll be back very soon with a new video for you. I'm really excited for autumn and for sharing lots of new fun stuff with you, so be sure to check back soon and don't forget to subscribe. Bye, guys.